I've spent 4 months in Guatemala and did the hike to Acatenango, and here are some questions that other travelers have asked me about the hike. Should you take hiking poles? This is a really long hike, and some sections of it get really steep, particularly when you do the optional night hike to Fuego and when you do the sunrise hike to the summit. Both of those sections are very steep, but the sunrise section, after you get to the top and then you start to descend on your way back down, it literally is like going down a ski slope where every step that you take pulls you down another 2 or 3 feet down the mountain. Now, I thought hiking poles would be kind of a pain in the butt to carry around, but actually I didn't think it was too bad. And they really did come in handy for those steep sections and just generally to kind of help me move forward, being that the hike is so long and that you're gonna get so tired from it. Do you need specific hiking shoes? Generally speaking, I'd say no. I did the entire hike in an old rundown pair of barefoot running shoes, which means there was basically no cushion on them. They're designed that way, and they were old. They didn't have very much tread on the bottom. They didn't have any ankle support whatsoever, but they were just comfortable to me. Now, I wish they would have been a little bit newer and I would have had a little bit more grip on the bottom, but overall they worked perfectly fine. And I don't think that this hike really necessitates like a specialized hiking boot. Unless you have ankle problems, I don't think you really need a high ankle, and I don't think you need like a super heavy, durable, thick tread type of shoe. You probably could, but it's such a long hike that, something heavy on your feet is also going to add to the fatigue that you feel. Overall, I would say the most important thing is that your shoes are very comfortable and they're not going to give you blisters. So if you do get a new pair of shoes, I would highly suggest you break them in a week or 2 weeks before you do this hike. But no, I don't think that you need hiking specific shoes. Would I recommend the hike to El Fuego? I think this kind of depends. I did the hike in November, which is the dry season, so there was basically no chance of rain. If I was to be going now in the rainy season, it would probably be a different story, and it would depend on what the weather forecast looked like and what it looked like when I actually got to base camp. What you're gonna find is that when you do get to base camp, the view from there is absolutely stunning. And you could just spend the rest of the afternoon, enjoy the sunset, enjoy your dinner, just staring off into the distance and seeing this beautiful volcano with these huge plumes of smoke coming out of the top. And I'm not 100% sure, but I think you would be able to see that volcano erupting at night if you were at base camp. It's just that you'd be a little bit farther away. But if you do go on the night hike closer to El Fuego and you see it erupting at like 9 or 10 at night, it is pretty magical. And if you get to see that, it is well worth the very grueling hike down and then up to get to the viewpoint. But just remember, you're going to be doing this hike after you've already completed the main portion of the hike to get to base camp. So you're already going to be super tired, and then you're going to go on a very strenuous and steep descent and ascent up to the viewpoint to see El Fuego. Not to mention, when you get to the top, you're going to be sitting in the freezing cold for potentially an hour or 2 hours before anything happens. And so if you do that and it's cloudy or it's rainy, that honestly would be pretty miserable, and you'd have to keep your expectations very low and go in with the mindset that you're just going to enjoy the adventure no matter what happens. I think if you can approach it that way, then yes, it's worth it. But if you go into it expecting that you're going to see an eruption, you might be setting yourself up for disappointment, especially if you're going in the rainy season. So check the forecast, ask your guides, and see what it looks like once you get to the base camp and observe how you feel before you make the final decision. If you know yourself, if you know your limitations, you're going to be tired and you just want to chill at the base camp and not worry about going on another strenuous hike, then the view from the base camp is beautiful. You can relax with some free wine that they give you, sit by the campfire and just enjoy the night while all the other people struggle to get up and down the mountain. Okay, what should you wear? One of the really challenging things about this hike is that it gets really hot when you're in the sun and you're walking up and down hills all day. But when you stop and you sit in the shade, the temperature drops really fast. Then of course, when the sun goes down and it's nighttime, it gets really cold. And especially if you take the optional night hike to El Fuego and you're sitting up at the top of the viewpoint, waiting at 9 p.m. for this thing to erupt, it might be cloudy, it might be drizzling a little bit. It gets super cold. The tour company that I went with offers rentals for things like jackets and gloves and face coverings. And I'm super glad that I rented all of those things because they definitely came in handy. I was wearing multiple layers under this jacket that I rented that had this fuzzy hood on it. I used this face covering that definitely helped to keep my face warm, and I had these gloves that I rented from them as well. And every one of those things was so helpful when sitting on the top of the viewpoint of El Fuego at night when it's just freezing cold. But remember, because the temperature fluctuates from really hot to really cold, you want to have things that are very lightweight and you can remove very easily. This was particularly helpful during that optional night hike because when you start hiking after sunset, it's getting dark and the weather's getting very cold, but because it's such a steep descent and ascent up to El Fuego, your body temperature gets really hot really fast. And then because the sun's already going down, once you stop, and especially once you get to the top, it gets super cold and it's freezing. Is it a tough hike? So I've seen all kinds of people do this hike. I've seen people of all different ages, all different body types. And I think if you go in with the right mindset and you're relatively healthy, then it's enjoyable and it's a great adventure. But I'm not gonna lie, it is a super tough hike. And I've done a decent number of tough hikes in my life, but this is just a very long, sustaining hike through changing temperatures. And there are parts of it, like I mentioned, that get extremely steep. So it's not very technical. You're not gonna be climbing over rocks and stuff, but it's just a pretty long, grueling physical activity, and you should definitely be fit and healthy and aware of what your physical limitations are. Lastly, which company would I recommend? So I've only done it with one company. It was called V Hiking Tours, and I have nothing bad to say about them. I thought they were a great touring company. They offered you breakfast, which was really nice. I think I went with 15 other people, something like that. And the accommodations that they had at base camp were very simple, but very nice with an excellent viewpoint. I'm pretty sure there are a lot of different companies that you can go with, and so I would just recommend looking at reviews, but I can definitely recommend V Hiking Tours. I thought it was great. I thought the owners were great. I thought all of the staff and the people that were hiking with you were all super nice, and so I have only good things to say about them. So hopefully that helps. If you're about to go on your hike to Acatenango, I wish you the very best, and I hope that you get to see an eruption at night because it really is incredible just to know that you're standing in front of an active volcano. So good luck and have fun.